global north. That means that most of us in the global north, including most of us activists in the global north, are enmeshed in this system. And this actually brings me to the first challenge or problem I see when we start to organize. The first big challenge we face is that we don't know about it, and our publics don't know about it. And one of our first, to me as an educator, key forms of organization that we have to do in the global north is education. We have to open people's eyes to how the system works, and what needs to be changed about the system, what is unfair and exploitative and destructive about the system that we all live under. And it's not easy to see that when you're a beneficiary of the system. It looks like the system is working pretty well. Anytime I ask my students, they always say, well, capitalism works great. Look at how well we live. That's proof that capitalism works. So opening people's eyes to capitalism is a bigger system than just you in your house with your gadgets. It has these global connections that underlie you in your house with your education and your gadgets. And you have to understand everything from all over the world that's going into creating this for you. That's also part of capitalism. So making the system visible to those for whom it is invisible, I think is a really important part of our task in the global north. But then we come up against another challenge, because what I find with audiences, with my students, as soon as we start to open people's eyes to how unjust the system is, what's wrong with the way the system works, their first reaction is what I call the boycott mentality. They say, oh, Coca-Cola exploits its workers, I won't buy Coca-Cola anymore. Then I won't be contributing to the problem anymore. Or they say, coal mining displaces communities in Colombia, destroys the land, the water, and the air, so let's not use coal anymore. Those two, I think, are really narrow approaches that fall along the lines of what I would call personal purification. So the main result of that approach is it makes you feel good because you think, oh, now I'm not contributing, rather than actually contributing to changing the system. And I like to draw a distinction between what I call a passive boycott, what I was just describing, this personal purification. Oh, well, I won't use that product because it's a dirty product. I'll buy Pepsi instead of Coke, and then I'll be golden. Or I'll use natural gas instead of coal, or I'll use oil instead of coal, and not looking at the larger implications. That's what I would call a passive boycott. That doesn't mean that boycotting never plays a role. I think an active boycott has been shown over and over again to be a really effective political tool. What I would call an active boycott is a boycott that's carried out on the initiative of the communities involved in the production of whatever it is that you're boycotting. And an example of that could be the United Farm Workers in the United States in the 1960s. The United Farm Workers was trying to organize a union on grape and lettuce plantations in California. They called for a consumer boycott to pressure particular growers to acknowledge, to recognize the results of the union elections and to negotiate with the union. That's a really effective kind of boycott because it's being called for by the people who are most affected by the industry, and they're asking consumers to boycott to pressure the company for very specific goals. And I think that points out one of the things that both Ulises and Maria said in the last section when asked, so what can we do here in the global north? They said, work in solidarity with the communities in the global south that are struggling for their rights, that are struggling against these companies. They can tell us when a strategic or active boycott makes sense, and they can also tell us that you purifying yourself isn't going to help us one bit. So a much deeper engagement with the affected communities is, I think, key to both helping raise consciousness in the global north and helping look for effective strategies in the global north that are going to go beyond making us feel good and really contribute to the kinds of structural changes that are needed in our planet. Some other campaigns that I think have been very effective, and these certainly don't exhaust the kinds of things that we can do, but they throw out some ideas for the kinds of campaigns that I've worked on and others I know that have worked on that have been really effective. One thing that we've learned is that these mining companies are very concerned about their public images. And one of the main tactics that we've used in the North has been to use our political visibility, or the political power that we have just by residing in the global North, the power to educate publics and the power to bring political pressure through education. The companies really, really don't want to look bad in the communities where they're selling their products and where their headquarters are located. So they have this weak point, which is their reputations. And I think we can do a lot more, not just to destroy the company's reputations, but to use our power over their reputations to pressure them into better behavior for the specific campaigns that the affected communities are working for. Another tool that I think we can use is international law. These legal cases that have been brought against companies, one of the most important things that I think they do is, once again, bring the companies into the public eye and raise consciousness and frighten companies into better behavior. Whether the lawsuit is successful or unsuccessful is in some ways less important than the public relations campaigns that we can do around these lawsuits. Finally, and here moving into some of the bigger questions, I think it's so important for our own educational process to be working really closely with communities that are affected by mining. Because these communities that are affected by mining are on the front lines of this struggle. It's easy for us to live blindly in the global North and just continue consuming without seeing the results of our consumption. But the communities that are affected by mining, whether in the global North or the global South, they can see very clearly what the results of our overconsumption, of our system of capitalist extraction and exploitation that has been going on for 500 years, what the real results of this system are. So we need to learn from them. We need to bring their messages to our publics in the global North as part of our consciousness raising project. My time is up, but just to finish, I'm right now working for an event that's going to happen next week in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And once again, it's an anti-coal campaign that's going on in Cambridge. They want Cambridge to become a coal-free community. Coal-free Cambridge is what they're calling it. They asked me to participate because they said they were concerned with the human rights aspect of coal production as well as the environmental aspect. And I said, you know, if you're concerned with the human rights aspect, it's not enough to say you want a coal-free Cambridge. Ending the use of coal in Cambridge is not going to help human rights in Colombia. You need to talk about how we as a community in Cambridge can unite with the communities affected by coal in Colombia. And in the end, they agreed to let me show my documentary in a side room while the rest of the event is going on that's going to be talking about the coal-free Cambridge. So it's a long struggle. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm really inspired to see so many people here who want to do that work. Thank you.